Hello and welcome to this bonus episode of the Gazette's Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette, and I'm joined by my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and 1986 Stanley Cup champs, Rick Green and Chris Nilan. Rick, after Game 3 against the Sabres, Jakub Dobes described himself as a goofy goalie who goes home after the game and watches Game of Thrones on TV. He is sort of a goofy kid. He's also a pretty damn good goalie. Who's the goofiest goalie you ever played with?
Well, my goofy goalie that I played with, and he wasn't that good, was Gary Suitcase Smith. He'd been like on 20 teams in like 5 years, and he stopped off in Washington. And this guy was like, are you serious? Every period, he would take all of his equipment off, skates, right down to his underwear after every period, and get himself, ready to go in time to start the next period. Too funny. And he also was a guy in practice. He didn't want to get hit with the puck. So a lot of times in the shooting drills, he would pretend that he's in the middle of the net, and then all of a sudden he would jump to the other side so he wouldn't get hit with the puck. So now you know why we had so many struggles the time in Washington when you have a guy like Gary Suitcase Smith, a beauty.
Knuckles for you, who was the goofiest?
I'd have to say Bob Froze when I was in New York. He was funny. I remember one night in Philly, we were patrolling the red line, and Dave Brown come over, and we all come together, and Brownie has a high voice, and Froze come up because he played with him. He goes, "Hey, who are you trying to intimidate with that voice?" And it just kind of, but he was a jokester. He had fun. I was at New Hook's golf tournament last summer, and he was there, Jakub Dobes, and he's a funny kid. It seems like he don't let a lot bother him, other than when he lost that game and he cried. I think he's got by that now, but certainly a funny kid. It seems like a guy that gets on well with his teammates for a goalie, right? I'd say Frozy, Bob Froze.
Was Patrick a wild little goofy too, Rick? I mean, I think every goalie. Have you ever met a goalie who wasn't a little goofy?
Yeah, he had his things where he had had the puck sitting in front of his stall and nobody was allowed to move them or touch it, or you'd end up losing your job, which ultimately cost one of the guys his job because he did move Patrick's puck, but. I forgot to mention another one, Mike Palmetier, who was a real beauty. And I remember we were flying to Vancouver, and the Air Canada came to the coach and said, "We got a problem. Somebody is loading up their scuba gear, and you're not allowed to put scuba gear down below." And it ended up it was Palmetier was bringing all his scuba gear to Vancouver so he could have his priority, which was scuba diving versus stopping the puck. So a lot of brilliant. Exceptional specimens that we had with the Washington Capitals in the day.
Stu, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Maurice Barrett. My first year in Nova Scotia, Bert Templeton took over as coach, and he came in the room and told us what the rules were going to be for the team. And we're all sitting there, and he, this, that, the other thing. He said, "No smoking in the locker room." So I get dressed, I go on the ice, and I'm out there skating around. And I smell cigarette smoke. And I'm like, what? And I look, and there's Maurice Barrett, Mo Barrett, skating around. Doesn't have his gloves on, his mask yet. He's just skating around. He has a cigarette. And he's smoking. I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "The coach told me no smoking in the locker room, but not on the ice." I'm like, this is pro hockey? Like, it was hilarious. Like, talk about a goofy goalie. Soft as shit.
That's what I remember Blair Mackesy telling me once. He used to run Hockey Canada and a management guy in the NHL, but in his minor league days, he said he had a goalie who, in between periods, would smoke a cigarette through his mask. the old mask. I mean, with Dobes, Knuckles, you gotta love the way he protects him. Like guys in front of the crease, he's hacking and whacking away at them, giving them the blocker. I think it was Nick Suzuki who was asked after a recent game, "Do you think Dobes might ever get in a goalie fight?" And he said he might fight a player. So it's sort of
It's nice he does that, but I remember a goalie who did that, and I think it took him off his game a little bit too. There's a time for it, right? Mm-hmm. Remember Hextall used to like go crazy at the time, and there's certainly a time for it. There's no question, but you can't overdo it. And honestly, this kid's pretty good at keeping his focus, as you can see.
And it's challenging because you got a lot of Buffalo guys that are really doing the little extra thing of bumping into him and talking to him and saying things that maybe he doesn't want to hear, but he fires right back, and he obviously uses it as a motivation because he responds in such a good way.
You mentioned Ron Hextall, Knuckles. I remember him going after your buddy Chris Chelios. Remember that one? He was chasing him around.
Yeah, I just happened to be in New York at the time. Oh, I missed that one.
Rick, were you still with the Habs when that happened?
Yeah, that was classic Hextall. It came, racing out of his net, ready to spear Chelly in the face and do what Hextall used to do, and that was classic Hextall. But
I would have put him right through the net after that.
Yeah,
I wasn't on the ice.
That was pretty wild series, and Hextall led it.
Who was the worst goalie you remember, Knuckles, standing in front of the net that would be hacking away? Maybe they didn't hack away at you.
Not a lot. Billy Smith. Pete Peters did it to me in Boston one game 3 times. He gave me the stick, and the third time I finally just come down and cross-checked him in the head. That's when I got in that fight with O'Reilly when I hit him and finally got even with Taz. I ripped a hole in his head.
I remember you were pretending that your head was down and you're going, I don't know what's coming.
No, I knew what was coming.
And out of the side of your eye, you said, bingo, and out came the left, and you corked him. A beauty. Classic.
Yeah. Some good old memories from the old days, huh? And did you want to add something there, Knuckles? And
it was a right, by the way, Greeny. I can't forget because I couldn't hold my stick for 2 weeks.
And you were a natural lefty, right, Knuckles?
No, natural righty, but I had a stun gun left, too.
Well, that's it for this bonus episode of the Hockey Inside Out Show. I hope you all enjoyed it out there. We'll have another bonus episode coming up over the next few days, so you can look for that. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. And in case you didn't already know by this time, the Hockey Inside Out Show is also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.